Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of The Paige Show. Today, I have a very special lady with me. She's been a mentor of mine, a friend, a heart sister, all of the things. And we are going to have an interesting talk for you today. This is Ann Van Dyke. And she will introduce herself and give some of her background. But on the Paige Show, if you guys have been following, we're doing a lot of unique things. And one of the topics that have been on my heart really strongly is different modalities of healing. I think we're in a time where people are searching. They are searching for themselves. They are searching for new ways out of the old thinking, new ways of healing out of the same old things that we have been taught. And we want to talk about a form, a modality of healing and connection and all of the things that she'll go into with it today about tapping. But first, I want her to introduce herself, and then she'll have the stage, and I'm sure I'm going to have questions, and we'll try to cover this topic as thoroughly but briefly as well, so everyone can have an introduction to a new modality of healing shared on the Paige Show. Go ahead, Ann.
Thank you, Paige. I am really excited about being here and being with you. I just love working with you. And I come out of a very traditional background. I have a master's degree in psychology. I was a licensed psychotherapist for 20 plus years. And then my husband died. And that was a brutally painful experience. And I realized that I was so fragile. There was no way I could hold anyone else's emotions. So I had to reinvent myself. And I'd always been interested in the metaphysical. So I started taking classes in the metaphysical. I took a 9-month class in psychic development. I learned to read tarot cards. I learned to read energy. Then I got interested in alternative healing modalities, and I learned Reiki. I became a Reiki master teacher, and then I took Karuna healing, where Reiki works on the physical body and the physical chakras. Karuna works in the etheric body and the etheric chakras, so it's a higher level of healing. So I took Karuna healing, became a Karuna master teacher. But I'm one of those people that I have to keep my mind busy, because if I don't keep my mind busy, it gets me in trouble.
I understand.
Things come out of my mouth that probably shouldn't have. And so I was having trouble sleeping, and I reached out to my mentor and Reiki instructor, Joanne. And I said, Joanne, do I need a clearing? Do I need a Reiki session? What do I need to do that I can't sleep? And she said, you need EFT. And I went, what's that? I had no idea. And then she wrote back and she said, emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping. And I went, oh yeah, I was introduced to tapping back in 1990. The clinical supervisor at the agency that I worked at did a couple of 3 sessions with all of us and suggested we use it. And of course, it was one of those things that went, that really doesn't fit with traditional psychotherapy. So, I'm not going to sit around and this is screwy. Yeah, I mean, that's really the way I felt about it. So I never picked up on it. But Joanne insisted that if I was going to heal my sleeping, I needed to do tapping. Well, I could not find a tapping person that I felt I could afford. They all wanted like way more money than I felt like I could pay for several sessions. So I thought, well, how am I going to do this? So I took tapping.
There you go.
I signed up to take tapping, and as part of my training in emotional freedom technique, I did tapping with other trainees, and we worked on my sleep problems. And then I took tapping out of trauma, which is a way of dealing with trauma through tapping. It's sometimes called tearless trauma. And so I have incorporated tapping into my toolkit of metaphysical healing tools. There's a lot of metaphysical healing tools. There's Reiki, of course, there's Karuna healing, there's shamanic healing and the use of rattles, there's aromatherapy and essential oils. When I do a Reiki session, it's hard to know what's going to come out of it because I'm led by spirits. So the last Reiki session I did, I used essential oils, I used music, and I used the rattle. And so depending on what my client needs, I'm going to pick from all these different energetic, they really all fall under the big umbrella of energetic psychology. Because Reiki works on energy, Karuna works on energy, shamanic healing works with energy. Rattles are very good for the nervous system. And EFT, tapping, works on energy. Tapping releases stuck energy. And so I'm in training for this tapping, and the instructor wanted someone who'd been in an automobile accident. And you know me, I'm very shy. I never speak up. And I said, oh, me. So this accident had been 2 years prior to this class. And I had done a year's worth of physical therapy. We'd figured out that I'd gotten a torn rotator cuff, and we'd worked on healing that. And anyway, so she wanted to demonstrate a technique called Tell the Story. And I did it with her. And the technique is a very long technique. I won't go into it right now. But here was the thing that just really surprised me, Paige, was it had been 2 years since my automobile accident. I'd done a year's worth of therapy. I felt like I had dealt with that accident. You know, I wasn't afraid to drive anymore. I'm still a defensive driver. I always will be. But as we did tell a story, we titled it with a neutral title, My Drive Home. And then we tapped on each little area of intensity. So like the first area of intensity was I'm driving home and I hear in my head, get off at 72nd. And I look up and it's like, whoa, shit, there went 72nd. I'll get off at 56th. But I'm watching traffic around me and, hell, there went 56. I guess I'll just go to 512. And again, I'm watching traffic around me, but we tapped on the fact that I heard get off at 72nd, get off at 56. You know, we tapped on each of those little things. And then I'm looking around and traffic slowing down. I'm going, uh-oh. So we tapped on the uh-oh. And I realized the car in front of me was almost at a dead stop. I slammed on the brakes, so we tapped on slamming on the brakes. I jerked the wheel to the right. We tapped on that. I stopped just behind a highway patrolman, almost on the shoulder of the road. I looked in my rearview mirror and went, holy shit. And we tapped on that. And I got, bam. And so we tapped on me being thrown forward, being thrown back. We tapped on my body twisting. All of those little individual pieces of the accident, we must have tapped for 45, 50 minutes.
Wow.
And after we got done, I said, wow, I didn't realize how much trapped energy was still in my body from that accident. So what the tapping does is you tap on these little peaks of intensity, and as you tap, the energy gets released. And it's It works on the energetic meridians in our body, the same as acupuncture or acupressure. It's part of that style of energetic healing. So does that kind of explain what EFT is?
Yeah, I think you did a beautiful job. I have so many points I want to pull out from that and expand on. First, I wanted to say, I'm just talking about your story in the beginning, from coming from a very traditional, could be viewed as a logical science background with psychology and psychotherapy and all of that. It's really beautiful for me to have someone like you on the show because I like to bring it all together here and show that things don't have to be separate. And just because you started in that background, it didn't stop you from saying, hey, there's more than what I just learned in this other realm of things. You really allowed yourself to be open to what is everything, right? And what really started that for you, it sounded like, was your journey of healing from that loss. And so I point out a lot on the show that we all kind of come to a wall with what I call our wall with God or spirit, where you have to, whatever that wall is, oftentimes it's a situation that's hard to overcome or a awakening, or some people it's a near-death experience, but it's your wall with God that allows you to really view things more openly. I feel like when we don't go through anything, if we're lucky enough to have an easy contract, it doesn't push you to that wall as quickly. So I heard the beauty in your story with that, which I can't wait to expand on a different episode with you when we talk about more of your past with that and your book and everything. There's just so many layers to you that we can't possibly touch all today. But for that story, coming into tapping and just the fact that it led you to open to the world of bigger things. It doesn't have to be everything we keep in a box. And then the other piece is you had done all these different modalities of metaphysical world of healing, those things. And you still, I'd like to point out, in your evolvement, kind of hit a wall where you're like, why am I still dealing with this? I need to find a different way to shift this now. And instead of giving up because you couldn't afford it, you trusted a mentor, you listened to spirit and her, and you found a way to get it done by actually learning it yourself. So now you can pass that skill on to other people. Like, I'm sure I'll be learning that from you next, And so it's really a beautiful story when I listen to you. And I hope that's what I want to point out, that I hope the listeners are hearing the true story behind it, because we could tell you what tapping is, and we are, we broke that down a little bit. But it's really more about what led you there. I mean, it's really about all of the things, the culmination of events and the different choices that you made to discover this modality. And I say that so that people that are listening, they don't feel stuck, or they don't allow themselves to feel stuck anymore, because you're just one example of many that if you just keep pushing through life, if you keep riding the waves, right?
Ride the
That's
waves.
the title of your book. If
Ride
you
the
keep
waves.
riding the waves, then you're going to always have some sense of reward, whether it's self-healing or passing that on to others, or in your case, you've gained another ability or skill that you can pass on to others, while also having this incredible shift in your own life. As far as questions about specifically the tapping, it sounded like to me that you walk through your story a little bit more than I would say in other realms. I too learned Reiki from you, and I practice that as a way of getting into all of the things I do. And I love shamanic healing. That's I practice the same as what you mentioned. You kind of, when people ask you what you do, I don't know if it's hard for you, but I don't really know how to define what I do. And I just say a session with me could be anything from this to this. You've had sessions with me. I tell you that. I don't know. Maybe it'll be a medium session. Maybe it'll be just this. But most of the time, it's always going to be a combination of something. And it sounded like, despite both of our backgrounds with things, what I liked about tapping when you were sharing is that you walk through the story more literally than you really do with some of the other forms of healing, you know, where someone's actually along with you for the journey. It felt like it was something you could delve deeper into on your own energetic field and have assistance with that. But you were reliving the story, but not in a way of just reliving the pain and the hurt and the trauma, but as you were reliving, you were releasing. That's kind of what I was hearing. And I want you to expand up on that. But the last thing I wanted to point out that was my favorite of what you explained was the tapping piece. For me, the actual tapping piece, I'm a visual learner. So when I see that, I can see you breaking the energy up from the actual action of tapping. So it just really spoke to me. I love that. So if you want to expand on that a little bit more, I'd love to hear.
Well, I will. I will talk about a client that I have been working with. But first, I'd like to show you a simple thing called orienting tapping. So I teach all of my clients this anymore. You know, if we all have trauma, okay? And COVID has created a lot of trauma. We're finally coming out of COVID. We can finally go into a restaurant without a mask. We can go to the grocery store without a mask. We can go back to the gym. Things are beginning to turn around. But even that in itself is somewhat traumatizing because there's oh, where's my mask? Oh, I don't have to wear it anymore. And so when we're dealing with anxiety causing situations, and that can be something little or it can be something big, orienting tapping really works. You just start at the top of your head and you tap and you look around the room.
I'm going to do it with
and
you.
you look at all the things on the wall and you notice, oh wow, there is that beautiful mandala I got in Santa Fe. And the artist used so many different, she used copper and turquoise and feathers and leather and paints, and it's so unique. And there's the camera with, there I'm looking at Paige. And so then we move to the eyebrow. And we just keep looking around the room and we're focusing on what else we see in the room. Oh dear, got to empty my shredder. Then we move to the side of the eye. And again, we're just focusing on, oh, there is that gorgeous Navajo woman weaving the beautiful rugs. And then we tap underneath the eye and underneath the nose. And each time we're looking at something in the room and it's just bringing us back into this here and now present moment. And I'm calming down and my body is settling into the here and now. I'm not in anxiety anymore. I'm in the now.
Wow.
And what most of us don't realize is that there's only one place we can live. And that is in this moment. This now moment. This is all we have. The past is dead and gone. You can't change it. You can work with it. You can work to heal yourself from it, but you can't change it. It's gone. And the future, none of us really know what the future's going to be. We like to tell ourselves we do, but guess what? We don't know. And we could finish today's discussion and I could walk out my front door, get in my car and get broadsided. And boy, that's the end of my future. So all I've got in life is this beautiful here and now moment. And orienting tapping pulls me back into this here and now moment. It makes me aware of myself in the present. And it brings such peace and such harmony and such beauty. And it reminds me to live fully present. So that's orienting tapping. And that's one of the first things I teach my clients that come for tapping. And like you, I tell my clients, okay, you've been referred for tapping, but here's the thing. We're going to discuss what it is that you need healing for. And we may do tapping. We may do Reiki. We may do some shamanic journeys. We will do what we're guided by spirit to do. And I always ask my clients, are you seeing a doctor for this issue? Are you seeing a therapist for this issue? I had a client that said, yes, she was seeing a therapist. I said, I will not work with you till you have discussed with your therapist that you're going to go see someone about tapping. I said, I'll do a Reiki session with you today, but I won't do a tapping session until you've talked to your therapist and you've asked your therapist, how does he or she feel about you doing tapping along with traditional psychotherapy? My client asked her therapist, and he said, go for it. So we began tapping on the fact that her dad was killed, was a pilot, and they were flying. And when they went to land, something was wrong. He took off again. They got caught in the trees, and he was killed. Her therapist had been trying to get her to go to the crash site for 2 years. We did one tapping session, and we just tapped on the tiniest little pieces. The first piece we tapped on was, I felt a shift of energy. And the next piece we tapped on was, why are we going back up? Those were the only 2 things we tapped on in that whole session. And yet, she was able to go to the crash site for the first time.
Wow.
Do we always do tapping when I work with her? No, not always. Sometimes I combine it with traditional psychotherapy because that's what she needs to do. Sometimes I combine it with Reiki. So, as much as I value tapping, as much as I value Reiki, as much as I value Karuna, as much as I value shamanic journeys and healing, as much as I like, aromatherapy and using essential oils, I don't stick with just one modality with a client. I meet that client right where that client is. And if today she needs tapping, then we tap. But she came the other day and she had just come from a massage. She had had a session with a spiritual medium, which was very powerful for her the night before. She'd had a massage that morning. And she was so wound up, it was like, I'm not doing tapping with you. We're not getting into any more energetic modalities. We're going to pull you down. So we did orienting tapping, and then we did a Reiki session.
Nice.
And so it is all part of this new burgeoning field called the psychology of energy. And we're finally beginning to realize that this comes out of physics and quantum physics. All we are is little pieces of energy. We're little bitty strings of energy. And so everything around us is energy. We just think we're solid. And so the more that we're learning about energy and the more we work with energy, the better the healing. But that doesn't make the old modalities useless.
Right.
So we use I think a good practitioner, a good coach, a good healer, a good channel for healing, because that's what I do, is I channel healing. I don't heal. I just channel the energy. God, Mother, Father, God does the healing. But I think probably the most important thing in my mind, Paige, is to stay in tune with Spirit, to stay in tune with Mother, Father, God, to let Mother, Father, God say, okay, today this client needs Reiki. Today, this client's going to do best with tapping. Today, let's do some shamanic healing.
Yeah.
So the field of energy psychology is a new field. It's a burgeoning field, but it's beginning to take note of what Eastern medicine is known for years,
Yes.
that we're energy. We have to work on the energetic level. We have to work on the spiritual level if we want to heal the physical level.
Yeah.
So
I love all of that. I mean, you just have no idea how much you've hit on so many things I've tried to get across on this show and have a platform to get across on this show. And that's why I love having guests on. It's really fun, but it's just inspiring to hear where we're all coming from and what we can contribute to the collective, because I absolutely agree, and I've said this a lot, that we are vessels. And if you lose sight of the fact that you're a vessel and you start thinking that you're doing all of this, that's when your ego's in there and you are really being reckless with the abilities that have been handed to you and the responsibility that you have for those. I speak a lot about that with medium work because that's just that's, I wouldn't say mostly what I do, but I definitely know that's the calling lane that has brought me into this world. And yet with a lot of clients, I would say I never know where it's going to go, because I go in there with the intention that I know being a vessel is a very sacred responsibility. And I say sacred because to me, this work is very spiritual. It's very God oriented. It's very much in the light worker realm of things, right? And I think if you go in with the intention that you are the vessel, you are basically serving spirit by just saying, hey, I'm opening myself up to be your vessel and let's do this kind of thing. You really never know what you're going to be called to do. And so I think it's great. It's absolutely wonderful to have an episode like today where, yeah, we're talking about tapping, but you can see where this conversation has gone into much bigger means of thinking, where it's like, now we're saying you kind of need a toolbox because you don't really know what you're going to be called upon as a vessel to do. And it goes back to, as long as we stay connected, and I want everyone to hear this, if we find our purpose first and just finding connection, that's the theme of this show. It's all connected. Find connection to spirit, because whatever you want to call it, spirit, God, the universe, it's finding connection to something outside of yourself. Knowing that there's that divine flow that is there to assist us and help us feel loved and safe and grow and all of those things. But really the key is that growth, that evolvement. And with that, I don't think we can discredit that when you're evolving, you're learning. You're learning something, even if it's just about yourself. And so when we bring it back into the topic today of this other modality of healing, it's great to never just keep yourself stuck in a box that this is the only thing I'm capable of doing or that I think would serve my type of clientele or people, because we have listeners in all types of fields, right? You never know why someone's drawn to listen to this. So no matter where you are in life, it's good to use what we're talking about today to not keep yourself in a box and be open to constantly learning, because you never know how you need to serve someone as that vessel. And so first key I would say is that connection that we talk about. If you're connected, if you're grounded, if you're having some daily ritual of what your connection feels like, you know what that's like, then you're connected to your energy. You understand when you're feeling anxious that it's you or it's someone else. You know, it all starts there. You really can't deny that it starts there. And if you understand that, then you can really understand the benefit of something like tapping. When you talk about the tapping, it was much different than when you showed us some of it. I'm so grateful that you took that time, because when I was tapping with you, you know, not only being in the flow of our energy from doing this, and because we work together, we kind of drop in right away together, but just me being energetically able to drop in just immediately, never having done this except with you right now. I was looking at pictures on the wall of my children and me, and it would take me back to that event. And then it almost felt like, again, I'm a visual learner, that it's how you tap your baby on the back when you need them to calm down when they're upset.
yeah,
I
Yes.
almost felt that. Like I was getting the visual of like that was spirit just kind of tapping me, and you can hear it in my voice soften. And I felt that, and this was my only time ever doing this. Like, right? I mean, seriously, Anne, you've talked to me about tapping, and we have never done it until right now. You guys saw it live. And just doing it for a few minutes with you, I felt everything you described before you described it. I could feel like it was just that comforting mother pat on the back. And I didn't even really feel wound up. I mean, we're doing the show. I'm happy. I'm in my zone. But I still could feel my energy like shift, that there was something deeper. So personally, I am super excited to explore this more. It's something that we can't cover all of it today, but I could tell you just from what I just felt that I'm excited about adding this to my toolbox and looking into this more and working through some of my own stuff with that.
Yeah, absolutely, Paige. And I cannot emphasize enough that we are simply vessels. I mean, you've heard this. You've been through all 3 levels of Reiki with me. You've heard me be on my soapbox. You are a vessel of healing. The healing comes from universe, from source, from Mother, Father, God, how Great Spirit, however you define the ineffable. That's where the healing comes from. And source meets each of us right where we are. And again, we must work with egoless intent. We must keep the ego out of the way and realize I have contracted with Spirit to be used as a vessel. And I am blessed to be used as a vessel. And I do need to stay connected. And there's some easy ways of staying connected. 10 minutes of meditation morning and night.
Yeah.
It's a good way of staying connected. There is some excellent, excellent research out there right now. The field of psychology likes to dabble in a little bit of this and a little bit of that. But some of the research that psychologists are now doing very well documents extremely well the efficacy of gratitude.
Yes.
That having a gratitude jar raises your vibrations, raises the vibrations of the earth. Writing down 1 or 2 things 3 to 4 times a week at bedtime improves your sleep.
Yes.
Gives you better sleep. And gratitude works on the energetic level. So we have all of these things that are simple and easy to use. I mean, I'm just grateful to be on your show and to be talking to you and sharing this time with you. It lifts my spirit. And I liked what you said about you could go back to holding your cranky little baby, as any of us who are mothers have held that child and patted his or her back and said, there, it's okay. Mommy's right here. And maybe this is exactly what's happening is Spirit is saying, it's okay, honey.
Yes.
I'm right here.
That's
You're fine.
That's the complete visual I got. I mean, I really did. I almost, not to bore everyone out there, but we all have our ways of just our we know that we know moments. And I literally just had one live here with you. I'm so grateful for that because I literally felt that I have a new tool. And like, of course, it's going to be expanded on, but just that simple tapping, the way that it shifted with me, and the way that I know when Spirit's connected or I've dropped in or clocked in, it was an almost instant clock in when I got that visual of like Spirit being that mothering, just you're okay. And so I hope in us sharing that other people, if they didn't do it with us, they go back and watch and now like actually do it with us, because I'm sure a lot of people would be able to drop in that quickly as well. And so On the last note of things, when you mentioned gratitude, I love that it pulls you out of your brain's everywhere else but the present, you know. So I just wanted to circle back to that when you talked about being in the present. Gratitude's a great way to pull you into that, because we all get sucked up into our daily life of everything that we have to do and we're stressed about, and it's really easy sometimes, even if we're at heart grateful for our lives, to forget to acknowledge the gratitude. So I love that. I had a boss many years ago, probably my favorite boss ever in dentistry. She was a female, and we both just vibed instantly. And she had a gratitude jar in our office, and she gave us that for Christmas one year, all of the employees. And so I was really tuned into that years ago from her. Again, not a light worker, a dentist, right? And so you just never know where you can get blessed, if you are open to connection. And the meditation, and you guys, you heard it from someone else besides me about the journaling, writing some thoughts down before you go to bed. You heard it from Anne too, so, because I am always talking about that on the show. So, Anne, again, just lovely information that you shared today. It is a blessing to have you in my life, and I cannot
Thank
wait for
you,
us
Paige.
to do more of this. So if there's anything you'd like to share with everyone before we go, I'll let you do that here now.
Well, just one thing crossed my mind just briefly as I was listening to you talk, and you were talking about connection to spirit. I read a book by a monk one time, and in his book, he said, make everything you do a prayer.
Wow.
He was talking about praying all day, every day, and I'm thinking, hey, dude, I'm the mother of 3 children under the age of 6. Give me a break. I barely have time to read your stupid book, let alone be in prayer all day. You know how you are when you've got a bunch of little ones running around driving you nuts. But I kept on reading, and what he said was, make everything you do a gift to spirit. If you're washing the dishes, feel the water on your hands. Feel the soap suds. Feel the squeak of the dishes as you get them clean, and dedicate it all to spirit. And that's a living prayer.
Wow. I felt that.
Isn't that powerful? So I had to apologize to you and say, oh, I guess I can do that. And so I don't wash dishes today without thinking about the beauty of the soap bubbles and how clean the plates are getting. And I often think about my children and grandchildren and even my great-grandchildren standing at the sink playing in the bubbles as they're washing the dishes. And I think, this is the pure joy of standing in spirit.
Wow. Such a good visual. I love that.
Yeah, and if I make everything about the joy of standing in spirit, I'm going to have a good life no matter what happens. So that's my last little bit, and we'll see.
Oh my goodness, I just love you. I love your humor, all of it together combined. And so you guys heard it. We gave you some tips out there, just a little bit of insight on another modality today, and that's all the beauty that comes from this episode. And I hope you guys enjoyed it. And like always, until we do it again, take care of yourself.